The book of Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10, beginning at verse 34. Start at verse 34. I'm going to read it in the NLT, and it reads, "Don't imagine that I came to bring peace to the earth. I came not to bring peace but a sword. I've come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." Verse 36, "Your enemies will be right in your own household." I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to Kol Haloyim La Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the elders, to the apostles that have learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim, across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aquat out there listening and learning. Lord, willingly this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, but subscribing to this truth. To you, I say Shalom. It's Brother Yahweh coming at you with another lesson through the Spirit and through the power of Yahweh. Hashem Yahushai, Yahweh meaning He is, He exists, or He to be. Hashem, Ba's in, Ha's the. Hashem His name. Yahushai meaning He saves, or He deliverer. Two names of the Most High God and the Son, who these people ignorantly call God, is Jesus Christ, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh. Hashem Yahushai. This lesson is inspired by an article, and I'm about to go into. I remember the brother in the news. He said, that brother funny. He did a lesson about. I wasn't even aware of it, but I think I'm gonna do a camp on that. I need to get out there again, get active. You know what I'm talking about? But anyhow, I was, struggling to find something to do, but it was like the Spirit just laid that on my lap, Anyhow, then, Lord and behold, I come across this one. Ecclesiasticus of Sirach chapter 39 talks about there will be spirits created for vengeance. The Lord, or our Father, or our Heavenly Father, Abba Nawa Yahweh, He is the Father of spirits. And all spirits are created to do the will of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. If you a left-hand spirit doing wickedness, the Lord put it on your spirit, He programmed you. Scriptures talk about man's goings is of the Lord. How can a man understand his own way? So, you got people that, like the scriptures talk about, they don't sleep unless they do wickedness, roughly paraphrase. The wicked are set up and they don't rejoice in righteousness. How the righteous rejoice in doing righteousness. The elders say this glorious work. Because once you understand what you evolved and what you're a part of, and if the Spirit really dealing, I would just come out and say, Satan been busy, and I had to do like a few days, in, city jail or whatever. But I took it, I tend to look at things and like the cup half full, but then I realized, like as of lately, I've been losing a lot of jobs, but I always looked at like, well, why me? Why me? And as of lately, the Lord, He put it in my mind. He said, how is it poor me, poor me? The Lord always takes care of me. So why is it poor me, poor me? It's a reason why the Lord does everything, and it came to, my mind, so it had to be, heavenly inspired, because I tend to don't think like that. But He was like, how that this ain't for your betterment? Because the thing is, we got to detach from the world. So if I'm always, losing jobs, I can't get attached. You can't, like I was gonna try to get a house because, from the way they persuaded me, they're like, the mortgage is gonna be cheaper. But then maybe the mortgage is cheaper, but the property tax is more expensive. You know what I mean? So it'd be like you paying the highest mortgage. This devil. I was listening to the one elder brother from New Jersey, the two brothers, shalom to them brothers, and he was going to that. You don't want to get no house. You don't want no loans or debt to this devil because it's a debt-based system. And when you look at how they doing it, it's pretty much, it's basically leading the way like the Judas go for that beast system. You know what I mean? Those is in debt. We'll clear your debt if those that can't take care of themselves, that rely on the government, we'll take care of you. You know what I mean? And this whole Louisiana shooting shit, it's funny because I saw an article, if I could find it, I didn't bookmark it, but it was talking about how Trump was going into legislation about psycho drugs and psycho medications. And I didn't read the article, but it's funny because this Louisiana situation, they say this is like one of the biggest mass shootings in the country. This is going to come with like this is going to bring forth some kind of agenda. Believe that. You know, you got the NAACP speaking on it. You know, you just got a lot of active spirits going on. You know, it's a lot of activity going on because, you know, we in the end days. Matter of fact, let me get this. Second Ezra chapter 15 and starting at verse 6, because it's not going to slow down. You know, people hoping that this war slow down. Trump been lying to these people all day. We're in negotiations with Iran. Iran is opening the Strait of Hormuz and closing that bitch at will, showing you we got power over you. That's why Trump went and motherfucking with Iran literally blocked off the strait. They blocked off them. Because these Babylonians or DJ Trump, these Edomites, they like big spoiled children. You know what I mean? Used to having their way so long. You know, I told my female friend about how I grew up with a guy. I ain't gonna name his name, but you ever like play sports? Like we used to play football, you know, and he'd be the one with all the like. I didn't grow up. My dad wasn't buying no basketballs and footballs and shit. You know, I got gifts after Christmas. You know what I mean? So I wondered, did my dad know it was a pagan holiday or did he just being cheap? But my dad wasn't no slouch. You know what I'm saying? Like my dad was, you know, I mean, not, you know, of course everybody think they had the greatest. Some people don't, you know, Jake is fucked up. But I realized how cold my daddy was after my daddy passed. But anyhow, saying all that to say this guy that we grew up with, he always had the basketball, the football, the baseball, but nobody would pick him because he couldn't play. So he'll let us play for a minute in hopes to let us play, that we'll pick him. And then he'll let a game go by, and then nobody picked him again. He'll take his ball back. That's Esau Edom. Bullshit you not. Yeah. So, like I heard a brother say, you know, you have people that's literally hoping that this war, you know, pretty much ends, but it's going to intensify. I hear that pretty much the government or this Trump's administration has reached out to these automakers because now they want them to start producing weaponry. You got to remember they used a lot of those missiles, you know, which cost like $1 billion. I forgot the name of the missiles, but they used a lot of them. Now they got to manufacture them again in haste. Maybe that's why they sending down ground troops. But you know, I seen an article, they said pretty much in order for them to get Iran's enriched uranium, they're going to have to send in thousands of troops. And it show you how cold the Lord is, because the scriptures talk about how these devils' tongues shall fall upon themselves. They telling you why they sending the troops in, to get their fucking resources. And for those that can see it and understand it, and for those that can't, it's going to go over their heads, you know. I think about so many people I tell the truth to. I was just with a dude I was homeless with. He doing very well. You know what I mean? You know, I got respect for him. I called him out the blue because I didn't even know his number still worked, but I needed help because I recently moved again. And, you know, I only was dealing with the brothers, so I ain't got, you know, I literally, it's me and the Lord walking. But, you know, again, I reached out to him. We've been talking here and there, but I was with him today. And he was telling me how I was telling him about certain stuff, and he hit me with. He said, "I'm gonna say it like this. I'm not trying to." He's like, "You might take it offensively, but I'm not trying to be offensive." But he was like, "As a man," he said, "I could give a fuck less what most men is thinking or doing or what they trying to do." He said, "I'm trying to get to the next level." So I just listened to him. I said, "I understand. I respect it because in the same sense, I feel the same way. Like somebody that doesn't believe in the truth, I used to stay clear from, but." You know, like the elder said, you got to literally know how to maneuver through the world. You might need something. But I remember years ago, before I was even came into the truth, it was a dude that had a book. I think it was like, what was it? It's a book about atheism, though. It pretty much tried to go against the Bible. They don't, the book the church don't want you to read. And pretty much, that was when I was first went on my journey trying to find out the truth. Long story short, the dude was kind of a demon, but he was already talking about what's they trying to do, you know, hip and everybody and all that. He knew that much, but he was a damn demon. But he said you got to be cool with certain people in the world, and you know, because you never know the Lord. If you pleasing the Lord can use somebody that got hip to give you food while you ain't see it. You know, you got to understand this is the Lord's movie. Ultimately. Factually. But, you know, I kind of went off topic, but, you know, everything's the will of the Lord. But saying all that to say this, if you trusted in Trump, I mean, this nigga just been lying the whole time. Like, yeah, we're talking to peace talks and all this shit. Yet still, you know how like you see a nigga try to slip you or something, or try to, you know, sucker punch you or, you know, creep on you from behind and you see it and you slip the shit. That's how Trump looking. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I don't know what it is, but it's comical, you know. You know, more like the elder always say, more people are waking up, so maybe that's why it's looking so sloppy. And ultimately, him being exposed, you got a lot of people distancing themselves away from him. A lot of the MAGA people saying they ain't fucking with him because everybody's pretty much opposed to this war. Democrats ain't fucking with him. The Republicans, lightweight, not fucking with him. But literally, it ain't gonna be nothing you could do because prophecy is gonna prevail. You know, you ever jumped in the car? This ain't boys in the hood that say, let me out. Once you in the car, you can't get out the car. That's just like with us in the truth. You know, they say like how the mob is, you know, or that movie Blood In, Blood Out. You know, you come into this thing and then you fall out for whatever reason. The Lord can kill you. I don't be trying to spell or whatnot. Like I said again, you got to think about it. Well, I see why brothers spell stuff because, you know, the algorithm, you will say one word, they'll say you said some other shit. You know what I'm saying? Just to have the devil get down. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot to, you know, really, you know, go up against. We battling a lot. You know, scriptures say in Ephesians, because we battle against principalities and powers, you know, rulers of darknesses in high places. But the point I wanted in 2 Ezra chapter 15, it says, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. And we seeing how high this wickedness goes. Think about the whole situation with like just that Epstein files. And you still got people just oblivious to shit. That show you how dumbed down the society is. You know, I was listening to the elders. They was like, you know, paper money. You know that part where Jim Carrey came with he wrote money on pieces of paper. But that was like Keenan Ivory Ways did it, drinking your gin and juice in the hood in South Central or something like that. Remember, every time it was something, you know, a real message, Keenan Ivory Waves would say, message, you know what I mean? Because a lot of comedians tell a lot of truth. You know, when you, like with Dave Chappelle, he ain't the first comedian to do that. You know, George Carlin did it, you know? A lot of people do it, you know? Because the truth literally is in plain sight, and you can get away with saying something, you know, if most people, it go over most people's head, you get lightweight get a pass, you know. It's those that's really trying to wake everybody up that literally, you know, well, it's ultimately the will of the Lord, you know. The Lord gonna preserve and protect who he want to, and he gonna, you know, like with the draft thing, you know, if the Ukrainian government could just take a motherfucker that was, you know, undraftable, why came Babylon the Great when they not even feeding their soldiers? Oh, I bet you they feel so stupid. And I never wanted to go to the military. My daddy was in the military. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I was like, you know, that didn't impress me. I was, you know, to show you how wickedness could be righteous to what you read. Like, short, I ain't gonna say it like that because that don't even make no sense. What I'm gonna say is, the Lord really doesn't look at your past. He winks at, if he's dealing with you, he winks at certain things when you didn't know no better. You know, I chose, we gonna run these streets up, you know what I mean? As opposed, but if I'd have went to the service back then, I wouldn't have seen no war. And like I said, if I would have, it'd have been Desert Storm, and they, you know, they mollywopped and ran through that shit. You know, what's that movie with Jamie Foxx, Jarhead? You know, you got to understand they you know, that's why motherfuckers snap. They instill all this and put and build these men to be killing machines, and then in that movie, dude didn't get to kill nothing, so he snapped. Says, behold, said the Lord, Yahweh Shah will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, which the sword is the gun, so you're going to have the mass deletions. We seen that with the Louisiana situation. It says famine, which that's fastly approaching. They can't even afford to feed the troops. They ration it to them. So you know something is about to happen in Babylon the Great. Because I think my personal opinion, speaking as a man, they literally passed that budget, but you got too much going on. You get what I'm saying? Now they could print money. You got Trump still trying to build the White House. They still trying to have the UFC at the White House. You get what I'm saying? Like money's being spent handled at an alarmingly high rate. But just imagine if they can't afford to feed the troops, what you think coming to Babylon the Great? I have been noticing when I go to these grocery stores, a lot of them ain't stacked up with a lot of shit like they normally be. It says death and destruction. And, you know, yeah, like I said, yeah, we see a death on the daily. I was listening to the brother. He said you go to sleep or you wake up watching the news and you seeing death. He said you lay down when you about to go to bed watching the news and you see death. When you coming and going, you seeing death. That's terrifying. And destruction. This system is being destroyed right before our eyes. You know? So I'm going to read a little bit of this article. It's not meant to be long. Maybe I'll play it. I'm going to play it. Fair use. I'm not profiting off of this. I'm just going to line up scriptures with this video. Lord willing is edifying.
The most expensive outage you'll ever experience is the one you weren't prepared for.
Man, no sound. It should be some. Well, fuck that. This is out of the Independent. It says a 13-year-old accused of shooting his father dead outside of a Louisiana school. Damn, there's all kind of shit going on in Louisiana, huh? Wow. Is facing murder charges according to police. The shooting unfolded in the community of Hammond, a city 45 miles northwest of New Orleans. The incident began when a teenager refused to get out of a car while in the carpool line outside of his school. Damn, he did it right in front of the school on April 14th. So you know that was a spirit creative of vengeance. According to a statement from the Hammond Police Department, maybe you want to say like the elder brother say, he didn't give a damn. That brother funny. A school resource officer was notified of the incident by staff at, I'm going to butcher that, Pahoa Alternative School, and along with an HPD lieutenant tried to contact the teenager and his father. Eventually, the boy's father decided to take his son home. As the car pulled away, the resource officer heard what he believed to be gunshots. The statement read, damn. Hammond Police Chief Edwin Bergeron Jr. told reporters that the car sped forward and crashed into a nearby home with a 5 or 6-year-old also inside the vehicle. Following the crash, the teenager emerged, brandished a firearm, and began heading towards the school. The police chief said the school resource officer moved to intercept the child. Foolish. We don't know what his intentions were. Bergeron, he probably was going in there to delete somebody in the school. Said, referring to the boy, we don't know if he was going to take it further, but our officers who were assigned to that school put himself in danger, disarmed the shooter, and was able to take him into custody. Yeah, because he was a child, and that was the will of the Lord. The Lord, scriptures talk about whoever perishes being innocent. That's deep because, he could have shot the cop too, but, the Lord didn't, scriptures say, Most High God, matter of fact, I'm going to get that. It's the book of, Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 39, and it reads, See now that I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Scriptures talk about how, basically, what's that, 68, Psalm 68? It talks about from the Lord belongs the issues from death or of death. So the Lord can, bring you, the Lord can preserve you or the Lord can destroy you. Now the scriptures talk about in the last days, perilous times shall come. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. And this know also that in the last days, perilous times shall come. Going to this word perilous, It's I know that one by heart. It's Calipas.
Strong's G 5467. Khalipas. Khalipas.
So it's hard to do, to take, to approach. So in these last days, it's gonna be hard to do. Meaning do. It's hard for people to get jobs. It's hard for people to provide for their families. Everything is intensified. It's harder. The Lord. We know sup with brothers. I don't even know how I made it this far because again, like I say, I have no contact with brothers. I was told not to come down, and I'm respecting the brothers with. I mean, I could, it's free world, and brothers. But if you don't want me down there, I'm not gonna come. That's the will of the Lord. You know what I mean? But again, I want to have a clear conscience with all the hell that's coming on. I don't want to second guess. You know what I mean? Shit, just to kill you. You know what I'm saying? If you really your conscience will fuck you up. You know what I mean? You got individuals that still beat themselves up for what they did in their past. Because you got to remember, we know, or you should realize that you're not even really worthy. It's through the grace of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua if he delivers you. It's nothing of your doing. You could, you know what I'm saying? The most wicked person in your mind could have, in your mind, because it's not about your mind and your thinking, it's about the Lord's. Think about Paul. You know what I mean? You had the apostles and the disciples scared of him. Like, imagine that. This nigga, right? You know what I mean? Salakia. I ain't gonna call it. Our forefathers no nigga. But my point is, they probably thinking like, man, it says hard to bear, troublesome, dangerous, harsh, fierce, savage. It's gonna be fat savage out here, and that's you got a lot of people in that spirit. Like there's a lot of spirits that's just deleting family. But like I read Matthew chapter 10 and 36, your foes will be of your own household. That's what you're gonna have to watch the most. My brother used to make a saying, which he was saying it, but I realized one day reading the scriptures is in the Bible. So he always just talk about how don't let your left hand know what your right hand doing. I forgot where that's at, but that's in the scriptures. But he said, but I'm to the point I broke it down to fingers. So I'm thinking about really meditate on what he's saying. Like he like shit, I can't even trust nobody. Real talk. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers. This one, it's something spiritual that the elder always says. He said he know for sure it's individuals that's agents. You know what I mean? So even with that, you could trust real solid brothers, but how do you know a brother is really solid? You got to think about it. Look at Judas. Judas was all the way up. Now the Lord knew, but the disciples, they didn't know anything. Even when he was being exposed right before them at the last, when they had the Last Supper. For men shall be their lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Unholy is to be joined onto. Holy or quadash means to be separate. So we supposed to be separate from this world. The scriptures talk about in the book of Isaiah, he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. Verse 3, without natural affection, truth breakers, false, and that's it, without natural affection. You got family members deleting family members. That dude shot not only his 7 children, he shot, the cousin. That's like, you really take time to think about that. That's like, that's cold blood. That's cold blooded. I'm talking about that David Chappelle episode where he was singing like Rick James. But yeah, man, I'm not laughing at no infant passing, but at the same time, whoever perished being innocent. Like the elder said, that female, like the elder brother said, you like the elder said, we don't give a damn. I was talking to old buddy. He was like, yeah, these women. Jake always been on some, at every woman type thing, because like it's just in the Jake nature. Jake like women, but most dudes ain't even like. He said that he was like he went into the story. He was like, man, he's like, it's kind of weird. I'm like, right, it ain't the dudes that's all on no bullshit or BS now. It's the women. Finesse Two Times said. He said you got a female, she loose in her 20s to her 30s, then she go through epiphany and maybe be celibate for 10, 15 years, and then she creeping at 46, 47. Now she go back into that whole phase, but now she about to go super hard with it. You know what I mean? And I've seen that. That's why this place got to be destroyed. You know what I mean? It leads people astray. You know what I mean? Like, people, what's the word? They make mirth in they wickedness. You know what I'm saying? Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of the Most High, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. From such stay away. So that's why, again, like, if you wasn't into this truth, and then, like I said again, it's little moves I make with him, and it's good to be. I'm a man with around all females. You know what I mean? Like, I got boy dogs that ain't even the same breed just because I wanted to get the female energy out of this shit. You know what I mean? But saying all that to say this, bad times is here. You know what I mean? Evil and only evil. Behold, has come. You're gonna see more of these things where people just losing it. This is the book of Ezekiel, and like I made mention of, I don't really want to be around you if you ain't really the thing is this though, the Lord using him for something, because I could tell you a lot of this man's life and you're gonna be like, what the fuck? The things he overcame, I mean, like, just because the Lord preserved him for something, you know what I mean? I don't know what, and then when he just rejected, like, I don't really care. But when he hit me with that, I was like, I could feel you, because I don't really care if the Lord, destroy you. You chose to reject his truth. So I hit him with, now I'm about to tell you something that you might not want to hear. And I'm saying, he's about to make it to the next level. For a nigga that don't believe, it ain't no next level. You try to get more money, but you watching it, you can't even see the system failing. You just go kill, like, and then you try, because he an older man. I'm an older guy, but he like damn near about to be 60. You think he about to retire and just, like Esau, just walk off into the sunset? Nigga, do you not see what's going? That's what I said. Niggas is stupid. So since he said that little sucker shit, I said, well, yeah. And he just looked at me. Yeah, I know he's mad. You sitting up there waiting on a pension, and they might take that bitch away. You know what I'm talking about? Second Chronicles chapter 15 and verse 13, that whosoever will not seek the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shah, power of Israel, shall be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. So if you ain't trying to seek the Lord, you know what I mean? But I am going to stop using, the scriptures say use the world, don't abuse it. You know what I'm saying? So, typically I would have been, I don't associate with nobody, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, a motherfucker associating with me gonna probably get more trouble, you know what I'm saying? Because we, enemies of this kingdom, you know what I mean? If you can't see that, if you thinking you gonna be able to jump in and jump out, that's why the Lord did it the way he did it. We doing lessons, brothers doing lessons from, off phones. They read all that shit. You know what I mean? So you ain't, you was on the camera, you know what I mean? So try to do that shit if you want to. They gonna look at you like you retarded. But maybe they won't, huh? I'm gonna reread that again. 2 Chronicles chapter 15 and verse 13, that whosoever would not, if you really truly believe, you supposed to have a mindset of on pain to death, if you really solid and locked in with the Lord. Because if you really solid and locked in with the Lord, basic scriptures will tell you it ain't really no death. The Lord show you it ain't really no death. Science will tell you that energy doesn't get destroyed. And the elder was going into that lesson, or the camp, they said pretty much, our bodies are electrical. Right. Energy. Yeah. So, what's that called? A defibrillator, that could, electrically jumpstart your heart. That whosoever will not seek the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shah, power of Israel, shall be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. So I don't really feel bad, I kind of feel bad for children, but at the same time I don't, because like the brother said, you got such a thing called reincarnation. So you play out your, what's that, Ecclesiastes? It tells you, you saw the place of judgment that was up under the sun. Which is that? Here, the earth. I'm gonna end it with this, because at the end of the day, the only people gonna be exempt from this great slaughter that's coming, scriptures talk about, it's gonna be death from one side of the earth to the other. I think that's Jeremiah 25. This is Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. And the Lord Yahweh Shemashah said unto him, go through the midst of the city. I'm gonna start up. Verse 3. And the glory of the power of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen.
It's your.
Well, what the fuck? That was some
It's your
satanic
thoughts,
shit. Look at this shit. And the glory of the Lord, and the glory of the power of Israel was going up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with linen, which was an angel, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord Yahweh Shemashah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, which are the elect, And that mark is
Let's try it. That's all I'm going to say. Till you try it, you'll understand why it's such an essential part of my life.
and that mark is dua, meaning to be exempt from judgment. I want to see if it's gonna say. No, I ain't need to do that. Dua, a mark by implication of signature, desire. It's supposed to say a mark of exemption, meaning exemption from the judgment that's to come. And to the others, he said, in my
Person said
hearing,
they're tired of seeing ads.
all of those that didn't have the dua says, and to the others, he said, in my hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite, meaning to strike, beat, cast, clap, slaughter, punish, murder, smite, be stricken, wound. It says, and smite, let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. And those Alahims, the angels of death, those spirits creative of vengeance. That's why you see some of these people be so calm. That little dude shot him in the parking lot of the school. His own flesh and blood. So you telling me that there was no spirit creative of vengeance?
Take your shot at becoming today's.
Because the spirit's creative vengeance in that chapter, in that verse, it talks about no, it's not in that verse, but I think it's like a few verses away. It says basically to appease the wrath of him that made them. So, everybody we all spirits, and ultimately you're gonna do the will of Yahweh Shemashah. That's what you was created to do. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 18, it talks about and all obey his will.
All right, wait, hold up for a second. Y'all know I love.
Verse 6, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. So it says begin at the house of Israel. That shit, the Louisiana situation, that was a Jake. So his children obviously was Jake's. He did look bugged out. The brother was like, cone head. He looked bugged out. He looked kind of feminine, but he also looked like something was wrong with him. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. So, you got a great judgment coming. What's that? Ezekiel say the four sore judgments? Just keep on coming up. Death, famine. Talk about the dogs to tear. Lord the dog spirit, because the spirit of animal goes back to the earth because they were created to be a certain kind of way. Men's spirits go upward while the spirits of the animals go downward. So when you got You know, I got a dog that got a mean bite pressure. His bite pressure is like one of the highest bite pressures of the dog. I only got the dog because I wanted to see if I could actually deal with it. You know what I mean? Like on some retarded shit. You know, but saying all that to say this, you got lions and leopards and shit like that. That I'm talking about. They bite you. Say they bite you in the neck. They gonna fuck around, break your neck. They bite you in the skull. They piercing your skull. You know what I'm saying? If it take 5 pounds of pressure to break a jaw and a clean punch, just imagine something that could break bone. You know, tigers and shit be 400 pounds. I ain't got my dog to try to actually like attack nobody or nothing. I don't teach my dog that. I got children. I got a dog to warn me. You know what I mean? When you hear a motherfucker, you know, that's what though. I remember one point in time he wouldn't even bark. And I told the brother, let him get around your dog so he can learn to see what he gonna do, what he's supposed to be doing. He's like, no, you ain't gonna make my dog retarded. That nigga barking everything now. You know what I mean? So it's just, you know, shit funny. But it's not funny. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, like the brother said, you need to be praying like the ones that worship Islam. You know, the Muslims 4 or 5 times a day. But with that, I'm gonna end the lesson. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments of your power, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushua, or you will be destroyed. And with that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to call Elohim Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kodash, double honors to the elders, to the apostles, whom I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and Aqua that listening and learning. Lord, willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, but subscribing to this truth. To you, I say shalom. Till next time, Lord, willingly, shalom, shalom. Kwame Asherallah, Mawaf Lababal.